Okay, good afternoon. Today we are going to be talking about placentation in anatomy, embryology. Okay, why does placentation matter? Let's start with simple truth. No placenta, no pregnancy. Placentation is actually the process by which the placenta forms, attaches, and function as a life support system of the developing embryo and the fetus. Okay, and clinically, understanding placentation explains ectopic pregnancy, placenta previa, placenta abortion, preeclampsia, even fetal growth restriction. So this is not just embryology; it's actually obstetrics in disguise. Okay, so now what is the definition of placentation? Placentation just simply refer to the development, okay, structure and functional arrangement of the placenta and its relationship with the uterine wall. It involves the fetal tissue, that's the chorion frondosum, the maternal tissue, that is the decidua basalis. Together they form the placenta. Now let's look at the timeline. When does placentation occur? This is actually very important, in fact, an important exam information. Week one, fertilization occur, right? So there is blastocyst formation. Week two, implantation begins. Now, week 2 to 3, the trophoblast differentiate, okay? Week 3 to 4, chorionic villi develop. Now, by the end of the first trimester, placenta is well established. So, placentation is not really a single event. Actually, it is more like a progressive process. Okay, so now the starting point for implantation is that uh, 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 implantation cannot occur without implantation. So we say normal implantation site is actually the posterior superior wall of the uterus. And what are the structures that implant? Number one, the blastocyst, specifically the trophoblast as the placenta, embryoblast, that's the embryo proper. Now, let's look at the trophoblastic differentiation. That's the very high yield, okay? Once implantation begins, the trophoblast differentiates into two layers, okay? The cytotrophoblast, which is the inner layer, and then the cells are mitotically active, then supplies the new cell. So the cytotrophoblast, okay, the which has an inner layer, cells are mitotically active, and then it supplies new cells. Then we have the second layer, the Syncytiotrophoblast. That's the outer multinucleated layer, which invades endometrium and of course erode maternal blood vessel. This is actually the structure that produces the HCG, the hormone that is visible, okay, that presents itself in pregnancy test. Okay, so what is the clinical note here? Abnormal proliferation of Syncytiotrophoblast means hydatiform mole. Okay, let me repeat that again. Once there's an abnormal proliferation of Syncytiotrophoblast, then you have the hydatiform mole. Okay, now for development of the chorionic villi, this is where placentation becomes rather structural. Okay, now what are the stages of chorionic villi? We have number one, primary villi, that's the end of the second week, which will be cytotrophoblast core covered by the syncytiotrophoblast. Then we have number two, we have the secondary villi, extra embryonic mesoderm invades the core. Then we have number three, we have the tertiary villi. This one is around the third week. Okay, so the fetal capillaries form, which of course enable maternal fetal exchange. Okay, that's the exchange between the fetus and the maternal structures. There's an important exam tip here. Okay, maybe I'll give that at the end. Now let's look at the chorion frondosome versus the chorion larvae. Now, as pregnancy progresses, chorion frondosome, in chorion frondosome, the villi persist and proliferate. It forms the fetal part of the placenta, while the chorion larvae, in chorion larvae, the villi regress and there's the smooth chorion. So here the placenta forms only from the chorion frondosome. The placenta only forms from the chorion frondosome. Now for the maternal component, that's the decidua, okay? The endometrium during pregnancy is actually called the decidua. Now, what are the types? We have decidua basalis, which is, of course, beneath the implanted embryo and forms the maternal part of the placenta. Then we also have another one called the decidua capsularis. This one covers the entire embryo. Decidua parentalis lines the rest of the uterus. Okay, it's a video, so you can always go back. Now, what about the formation of the placenta barrier? Initially, the placenta membrane is thick, and of course, but it becomes thinner to allow efficient exchange, because of course efficient exchange cannot really happen in a thick environment. Okay, so what are the components of the placenta barrier? Of course, I've mentioned Syncytiotrophoblast, Cytotrophoblast, villous connective tissue, endothelium of fetal capillaries. Okay, so but later in pregnancy, Cytotrophoblast becomes thin. Sometimes otherwise disappears. Okay, it becomes thin, and okay, it becomes thin, and the diffusion become easier. And what is the clinical relevance of this? Drugs. Not all drugs, though. Some drugs cross easily through this barrier. Some infection, like the touch, cross the placenta. Okay. Now, what are the types of placentation? And I'm going to be classifying this. I'm going to call this anatomical classification. Okay. In humans, we have the discoid placenta and we have the hemochorial placenta. Okay. Now, what does hemochorial mean? Maternal blood is in direct contact with the chorionic villi. Okay, so what this does is that it allows efficient nutrient and gas exchange, but also higher risk of maternal fetal transmission. Okay, so this is actually important for you to note. Now, what about placenta circulation? Very important. Maternal circulation, we have spiral arteries, that's intervillous space. Blood bats the villi and returns via the uterine veins, of course. So for fetal circulation, 2 umbilical arteries, to the placenta, 1 umbilical vein to the fetus, 2 umbilical arteries to the placenta, 1 umbilical vein to the fetus. And now it's important because maternal and fetal blood do not normally mix. This is very, very important for you to know. Now, what is the function of the placenta? I've said this even at the beginning of the video. Of course, respiratory, oxygen to the fetus, carbon dioxide to the mother. Of course, nutritive, glucose, amino acid, even lipids. Then also serve an excretory purpose, like urea, creatinine, bilirubin. Then we also have endocrine, produces HCG, human chorionic gonadotropin, progesterone, estrogen, and human placenta lactogen. Okay, then is immunological. All right, it has transfer of LGP, passive immunity to the newborn too. So now abnormal placentation. Okay, it can happen. All these things I've been talking about, these are normal stuff. What about the abnormal one? Abnormal placentation, we have placenta previa, that's the implantation in the lower uterine area. Okay, actually painless vaginal bleeding. Okay, then we also have placenta as accreta spectrum. This is abnormal adherence of placenta due to defective decidua. Okay, it doesn't matter accreta, increta, and then even the other one. I've forgotten the name. And then we also have preeclampsia. Okay, this is abnormal trophoblastic invasion of the spiral arteries. Here there is poor placenta perfusion. Now, one thing you must, this is just a summary of it all. One thing you must remember is that placentation begin with placentation, okay? Trophoblast move to cytotrophoblast plus Syncytiotrophoblast. Then we have chorionic villi mature from primary to tertiary. Then, of course, the red. So, placenta, as you have learned in this video, is actually multifunctional, okay, from nutrition even to protection. Okay, so what simple exercise can I give you? Let me give you a simple exercise. A woman, a 40-year-old woman with severe preeclampsia is found to have shallow trophoblastic invasion of the spiral artery after they ran a test on her in the teaching hospital. Which embryological process is primarily defective? Which embryological process is primarily defective? So provide your answer in the comment section. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you.